Well, Archbishop Rozanski, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Great to be with you today.
Yes, and we can say Merry Christmas now. Merry Christmas. And as we are, celebrating this Christmas season, we just wanted to take a minute to pause and think about how we can really enter into the light and the hope that this Christmas season brings. So first, maybe you could tell us just a little bit about how you personally are taking time to reconnect with the hope that Christ brings through his birth at Christmas.
Well, we all know that this season is a very busy season. Sometimes for people, it's a season of intense pressure, and they feel they have so many things to do, so many things to accomplish, and those tensions can kind of rise. What I like to do is to immerse myself in the Advent season. The readings, the spirit of the Advent season is a very calming season. Advent really means toward the coming of Christ. And so when we are looking for the coming of Christ, we need to take that time to be with him, to calm ourselves, and to enter into the spirit of what Advent truly calls us to be.
Are there any traditions, Christmas traditions from your family or even just your priesthood that you continue to observe today that really help deepen your experience of the season?
Well, always there are opportunities to be able to help those who are less fortunate. So, from both my family and from my priesthood, my parish assignments here in St. Louis also, there's the opportunities to reach out to families who would not be able to celebrate Christmas. So, being able to reach out to them with some sort of help really, to me, captures the spirit of the Christmas giving season.
There are so many signs of Christmas all around us in the wider culture, beautiful Christmas trees, lights, all those things. But how does the church's observation of the whole Christmas season really offer us a different kind of hope than just the world's understanding of Christmas cheer?
Well, first of all, to me, what is always beautiful about Christmas is that as human beings, we would never expect God to save us in such a wonderful way, to come to us as a helpless infant in the manger, to be like one of us, as we know in all things but sin. And yet Jesus came to us as that helpless infant. There was no room for him to be born but in a manger. And we realize that no matter what the circumstances are, God would not let anything stand in the way to bring about our salvation. So that's just the beautiful message of the Christmas season that gives me great hope. The other part of the Christmas season, I think we kind of tend to lose a little bit of perspective on this, is that the last Sunday of the Christmas season is actually the baptism of the Lord. And all of a sudden, we go from celebrating Jesus coming to us as an infant to the beginning of his public ministry, of John's baptism of Jesus in the River Jordan. But that really ties together the whole reason why Jesus came into the world. He came to be born like one of us. He was baptized by John. That began his 3 years of public ministry and preaching, and ultimately led to Calvary, to his death, and to his resurrection. So we can see how that all ties together as we celebrate the Christmas season.
This time of year can be really busy or kind of overwhelming for so many of us. How do you find time to pause and reconnect with Christ amid all the rush?
Well, each and every day, my time before the Blessed Sacrament, early in the morning before the day really starts, is my quiet time with the Lord, my time of prayer. So I really appreciate having that time before the Blessed Sacrament, being able to pray, to be quiet, to recollect myself, and then to ask God for strength to help me throughout the day.
The holidays can also be a tough time for some people who might be experiencing some grief or some loneliness or loss. Is there a lesson maybe from the Nativity story that you feel can really offer some wisdom for people who are in those circumstances?
When we're feeling that sense of loss or grief, or perhaps the tensions and pressures that are in life, I think of Jesus being born in a manger. There wasn't a place for him, and yet God came into our world. And in the midst of that sorrow that we might have, in the midst of the pressures that we might feel, to really look at the manger and to know that God, despite all of our human failings, was able to come to us in such a wonderful way. What a great message of hope that is, particularly for those who are struggling, of God coming into the world. No matter if the world accepted or rejected him, God was not going to prevent salvation from happening.
Many families will gather with relatives or friends who might be disconnected from the church or feel far from God. What wisdom would you offer to Catholics who want to still be able to share the light and the love of Christ with those people?
Christmas is when we truly celebrate God's presence coming to us. And we are called to be that presence to others. The greatest gift that we can give as we have accepted Jesus into our hearts is to let others know how Jesus transforms our lives. Sometimes that's done by words, sometimes it's just done by the joy that we have. And I think if we're able to show to our relatives and friends, perhaps we're struggling with their faith, the joy that we have in our hearts because of our Savior, then we can truly bring to them the love that God has for them and that God allows us to show forth through the witness of our lives.
During this Christmas season will also mark the end of the Jubilee year of hope that we've been celebrating throughout 2025. So as we look back on this year, what have been some of the places where you have seen Christ's light at work in our parishes, our schools, our ministries throughout the Archdiocese that have really renewed your hope?
When I look at the many different ministries that take place here in the Archdiocese of St. Louis and the many people who are involved in those ministries, it really is a beacon of light and hope for me. And particularly in this past Jubilee year, the many people who've taken time to go on pilgrimage to the different sites in our Archdiocese to be able to visit different churches and chapels, in being able to come closer to God through that hope that is offered to us in this holy year. And when I see the amount of service that takes place in our food pantries, in our soup kitchens, of reaching out to the poor in so many ways, it's very evident in all of our parishes that there is that ministry that allows us to bring the presence of Jesus, perhaps to those who have lost hope. We are those signs of hope.
And as we get ready to enter into the new year, the Archdiocese of St. Louis is preparing for our Bicentennial, 200 years since we were established as an Archdiocese in 1826. And the theme that we're going to be reflecting on is Rejoice in God's Light, which seems really perfect for the end of the Christmas season. So as we enter into this Bicentennial year, this special celebration, what hope or prayer is on your heart for the Archdiocese of St. Louis?
As I reflect on the rich history of the Church of St. Louis and think of those many men and women who came here with such ardent faith and wanted to bring that faith to establish it here in our area. For example, St. Rose Philippine Duchesne and all that she did with her sisters to care for the orphans, to care for the poor, to bring the faith to our area. I think that as a people, we have a lot to be thankful for in our Catholic history in the Archdiocese of St. Louis. I think of examples like St. Rose Philippine Duchesne, other leaders over these past 2 centuries who have really emulated the love of Christ and been very dedicated in following him.
And in that spirit of rejoicing in God's light, what's maybe one New Year's resolution that you would propose for all of us here in the Archdiocese of St. Louis?
I would say that we adopt a sense of truly being thankful. As we look back on our history and as we look on the many gifts that God gives to us each day, to be ever thankful for those gifts. What a great resolution. Because if we're thankful, then we have hearts that are truly open to God's Spirit. And a thankful person is one who always realizes how good God is to him or to her.
Well, thank you so much, Archbishop. Thank you for sharing your insight and your wisdom with us as we go through this Christmas season and prepare for the new year.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be able to have this conversation, and I wish everyone a wonderful and blessed Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.